Hey guys, it's Off1 here, and today we're going to be solving contains duplicate, which is another problem from the blind 75 list. In this problem, we're given an array of nums, and they want us to return true if the value appears twice in the array, or at least twice, and return false if every element is distinct. The intuitive solution is just to go through the whole array and compare it to every other value in the array. For example, let's say we start at 1. We would compare it to 2, see if it's the same, and if it's not, we go to the next one, and if it's not, we go to the next one. And then if none of those match, we would go to the next item in the array and do the exact same thing. But this would take O of n squared time, and that is not what we're looking for. Another way to approach this problem is we could sort the array in any order, and we compare the current value to the next value, and if they match, then we return true because that would mean there's a duplicate. But to sort the array, you need O of n log n time. And to search the array again, you would take O of n time. And this just simplifies to O n log n. And while this is a better solution than the brute force approach, there is still a better one. The way to solve this in linear time is actually by using a hash set. If you don't know what a hash set is, it's basically an implementation of a hash map where the values are constant. So in this scenario, I implemented the hash set by setting all the values to true and the keys to whatever is in our nums array. And this basically just simplifies to something that looks like this, where we only really care about the keys. And when we search the hash set, we check if the key exists, and if it does, then we return true. To solve this problem, we're going to go through the whole array and iterate through it, and if the number is not in our hash set, then we're going to add it. And if it is in our hash set, then we're going to return true. So for example, let's say we start at 1. 1 is not in our hash set yet, so what we're going to do is just add 1 to the hash set. And then we move on to the next entry. 2 is not in our hash set, so we're going to add it. And then we go to the next one. 3 is not in our hash set either, so we're going to add 3. And then we get to 1. When we check the hash set, we see that it's already a key there. So now we're going to return true, which is the expected output. Since we're only iterating through the array once, it runs in O of n time. But for space, we actually need space for the hash set, and that takes up O of n space in the worst case scenario, because if we have to go through the whole array, then the hash set is going to be n size. So if your interviewer asks you to solve this in constant space, I would suggest just sorting the array and checking it like that. And now, let's get into the code. To start, we're going to initialize an empty hash set. This is where we're going to store our values and check if they're already in the set. And if they are, we're going to return true. So we just want to iterate through every number in nums, and if num is in our hash set, then we return true because that means it's a duplicate. Otherwise, we're just going to add it to our hash set. And that's pretty much it. After that, you just return false, because if you made it through this whole for loop, then that means there are no duplicates. So now let's submit the code and see if it works. So as you can see, the code does work, and now we're going to go through it manually. To start, we're going to initialize our hash set, which is already done here. And then we're going to iterate through the whole array. So for every num in nums, we're going to check if num is in our hash set. And our first entry is never going to be in our hash set, so what we want to do is just add it. So we would add 1 here. And then we move on to the next entry, 2. Is 2 in our hash set? No. So we just want to add 2 to our hash set. And by the way, looking up in a hash set takes O of 1 time, so that's why it's pretty efficient to do this solution. So now we check 3. Is 3 in our hash set? No. Then we add it. And then we move on to the last entry, 2. We already know 2 is in our hash set, and we're going to return true because it's here. And that's basically it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.